Hi there, my name's James Nightingale and I'm currently on my placement doing project engineering management. I think I'm about 8 months nearly into it now. And I just wanted to talk about what your first month on placement would look like. And really what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you through exactly what my calendar looked like. Now, I've not been able to show you the exact work calendar that I have because it's got details of clients on there, so I obviously can't show that. But what I've done is I've effectively recreated exactly what it looks like. I've just changed some of the names so that it doesn't give away any information and it can still show you exactly how I used my calendar as well in that first month. So our first day was a Wednesday, and we were invited to come in a bit later, about 10 o'clock. All that was really was just to set up our laptops, our phones, any sort of kit we needed, get inducted, get trained through the system that we use at ProSlam. And then at the time, our company was very busy, and I think we still are quite busy, but it was reflected by the fact that I was actually put on a project literally that first day about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. I had a call from my now supervisor, and he put me on the project basically straight away, gave me the debrief of what I'd be working on, and gave me my first task right there and then. So literally on that first day, responsibility from day one, which I think I actually felt in that moment quite, it was quite daunting really. I kind of thought it would be a bit more, easing into the experience, but actually it was straight in there. I think I'm kind of glad for that because I think it did mean I learned quite quickly. We also had to do a lot of training. So in that first afternoon, we did some training to do with health and safety at work, food hygiene, because we work in the food manufacturing industry. Also did asbestos training. So that took me the whole of that Wednesday afternoon and Thursday, most of the day. I was invited to a subcontractor meeting on that Thursday, but I think we discussed with the project team and just said that I was going to complete my training, and once I completed my training, then I'd get on the task that I'd been set that Wednesday. So that's sort of how things started. We also had an internal meeting where we all go into the office, all 30 roughly of us, and we talk about the business goals are at the moment, and a couple of people present back what they're doing on their project at the time. I also had a catch up in the morning with one of my colleagues who's on my project to help me settle in and to divvy up our tasks, because the main reason I was sort of brought on so quickly is because they were quite overloaded and they had a lot of work to do, and so I sort of could take on some of that responsibility. So at the internal meeting, this is the first time I met all of my colleagues in person really, and what I decided to do is I wanted to sort of show them that I was willing to get stuck in with the team really, and just a really simple way I did this was I sort of offered to get everyone like a cup of coffee from the kitchen. I know it sounds so simple, but literally just saying to them, does anybody want a drink? And you can go up to each of them and introduce yourself and chat to them a little bit, understand who each person is, and then get them the drink, and they obviously appreciate that, and that's a great way to get to know more people on your team. So that's really the first week. It was the first 3 days really, but that's the first week really. Second week, you can see I started to use my calendar a little bit, mainly for meetings that were already preset, such as supplier meetings. So a lot of what I was doing this week was just getting acclimatized with what the project actually involved, what do I actually have to do as a project manager, and what that looked like was leading a lot of different meetings. So I personally wasn't leading them straight away, but I did have to make the PowerPoint presentation for this design team meeting and this steering meeting, so I was in charge of just bringing the slides together. We also had a catch up in the morning of the first week. Most likely, whatever sort of job you're going to be doing, you'll probably have some form of weekly or daily catch up with your team, and that's a really good opportunity to, if you have any concerns, you can raise them there basically, and if you're feeling a bit overloaded, then there's always going to be someone to chat to. So my task, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but my task that was set straight away was to do this thing called an equipment service matrix. So in food manufacturing, you've got a production line, and along that production line, you'll have various different bits of equipment. And what an equipment service matrix is a massive list of all the equipment that will be used on the project. So I was in charge of sort of looking through this list, and in the name, the service matrix, you have to fill in what services each bit of kit will need. So does it need water, electricity, steam, gas, So I had to sort of figure that out and fill it in, and I basically had to do that within a week, but that was really the first draft. It's one of those things that changes as you go along. So this second week was really just getting settled with what would a week look like for me on the project. And bear in mind, this is all working from home. And in our company, we always have a quiz at the end of the week at 4 o'clock, which is really fun to sort of come together as a team on a Teams call and just go through a quiz together. So that was the second week. Nothing particularly major there. So week 3, as you can see, I started actually using my calendar even more than the previous week. So we had our usual catch-up meetings, supplier meetings. We had a couple of extra meetings to do with services on the project because we were deciding about things like what drainage we'd use on the project. Sounds fascinating. We also had an IT meeting, which is an internal thing where you go over, what IT issues you might have had with your computers or any of the software we use. I also attended a sustainability seminar. So this is one of the things that I was and still am really interested in is sustainability. So they want you to do a minimum of 35 hours of training per year, I believe. So this was just a little bit of training that I did. We also caught up with our business development team. So me and the other intern, Ellery, we caught up with business development to discuss what the business sort of goals were and how we could help them in any way. Had the usual meetings which involved creating presentations. I was also given the responsibility of doing the whole program really for the project. So this involved learning how to use Microsoft Project. So I've never used Microsoft Project before, so I had to full on just teach myself how to use it on the job basically. And this was quite daunting initially, definitely. However, now 8 months later, I'm definitely very comfortable now with using Microsoft Project, and one of the senior project managers on the project was saying that it was definitely baptism by fire, thrown in the deep end. But I've come out the other end and I'm definitely much more confident now with using it. So if you are thrown in the deep end with a project that you're on, or a task that you think is really difficult, people will help you through it. But also once you're through the end of it, it's such a good sort of way of starting yourself off, and a lot of things that come after that might not be quite as difficult. So you can see here that I put in a load of what I called program power hours. I don't know why I called them that, but it was effectively a time when I would just turn off all my emails, I'd silence my phone, and I'd just focus on doing the program. That shows you what my third week kind of looked like. I definitely felt a little bit more settled. Now you're about to see my fourth week, which is when I really started going hard with using my calendar. So get ready for that. Yeah, so as you can see, I even started timetabling in lunch at the end of the week. But really what I started realising was I need to be a lot more intentional with my time. So we had all the usual meetings. I'm not going to go over them again. You can see that I also plan in my emails now, emails and admin. Now I've changed the way I do this nowadays, but this was sort of an interesting thing because it meant that I was a bit more intentional about when I check my emails, because it's so easy to just leave your emails up all the time, and whenever something comes in you just stop what you're doing and look at the email, but that's not really a very efficient way of doing it. So you can see just that I got very detailed in the way I planned, which was reasonably useful, but as I said, I've kind of changed how I do it now. So in summary, really what I'd say is that in your first month you're gonna certainly feel a little overwhelmed at times. Definitely, there are going to be a lot of new things you're learning, but don't worry if you feel overwhelmed. Do not be afraid to ask lots of questions. Like my manager always says, that there are no silly questions, just silly answers. So feel free to ask as many questions as you can to your colleagues. They're pretty much always going to be more than willing to help you. So that's one of my key tips, is don't worry if you feel overwhelmed, and ask lots of questions and work hard. Another thing I'd say is take care of your own time, which you can see how I sort of developed over those 4 weeks, and that I started realising, I need to actually plan my time a bit more detailed. You don't have to do it the way I've done it, but definitely have sort of value on your time and how you're using it. And it's quite often said that the human brain cannot multitask, so do not leave open multiple different emails, Microsoft Teams, all on the same time whilst trying to do something where you have to concentrate. I learned that does not work. That's why I did these things called power hours, where I'd switch off everything and just focus on one thing at a time. That really summarises what I did in the first month, and hopefully that gives you an idea of what you might get up to in the first month. I worked from home this entire time, But now I'm on this same project, I'm now at a point where I'm on site in the factory every day of the week. So it can vary depending on what job you do. If you've got any kind of questions about this, or I don't know, anything else you want to see from me, then please put them down in the comments below. I hope that this has been helpful, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.